Hi everyone. So we're just going to continue where we left off, creating King Bob, the Minion, designed by Jess Davies, also known as CraftLover17 on Instagram. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create the robe, and then I'm going to show you how to attach it. So far, if you're at this part of the video, you should have this completed. So I'm just going to continue, and I do hope you enjoy. Now we're going to make his cape, and I'm going to start off with a chain of 34. I am going to start off with a cap band and wrap this around my hook 3 times. The cap band, I'm going to choose a band, any color, so a random color that you have, and I'm going to end up cutting this off after. So I'm going to start with the cap band, go wrap it around your hook 3 times, 1, 2, and 3. We're just using this to support our chain. 3 loops on your hook, and you want to start making a chain. So I am using the red color for his gown, and I'm going to use 34 bands. So I had 10, 20, 30, and 4. Our last band, we're going to use a stitch marker, so you want to get that too. So if you do have your chains all twisted like mine, you want to just make sure, try to just move them around. I always twist my chains when I'm making them. And let me just see if I can just move them around a little bit. And what we're going to do to our last chain is do a little slip knot, or a slip stitch. A slip knot, you would be pulling it, and add your stitch marker to that single loop that is around your hook. Now we're going to do a reverse stitch and add 1 band to each chain, 1, 1, 1, 1, all the way to the end. When we get to the end, this is where we're going to cut this band off. Now, to let you know, for each round, I'm going to be adding a C-clip, and I'm going to, a stitch marker, and I'm going to be leaving this just so you can tell where I am, and this will be easier for you to sew the white part around. So you'll see where I am, and it'll be easier for you to be able to tell. You can see I left the stitch markers. So now when you are reversing your stitch, try to make sure that you're going in the center of the chains and that you're not twisting it. So to review, I am using 34 bands, row of 10, 10, 10, and then 4. So 34. So all you're going to do is you're going to go back in that same chain where your band is coming out of, and you're going to add 1 band and do a crochet stitch. Your next chain, same thing. Bring your band through your chain, on your hook, and slide. And you're going to do this all the way until you get to the end. Keep checking to make sure that the bands are flat and that they're not twisted around. If you take your time on this, if it's the first time you've done this, just take your time and just check your work. I'm sorry, we're only doing 34 stitches. I apologize for that. So this was an extra band. Now what we're going to do is cut off the C-clip, this stitch marker. I'm sorry, the extra band that we have. So you should only have used 34 bands. I'm going to attach a stitch marker to this band that's around my hook. And this is what you should have. For round 3, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an invisible decrease. In my first 2 stitches, I'm going to stitch together. So I'm just going to add an extra band. We're going to start off with an invisible decrease. Then we're going to do single crochets all the way until our last 2 stitches. I'm doing an invisible decrease. I'm adding an extra band. So I'm going to turn this around and I'm going to go in each chain. Now I'm going to start off where my band is being pulled. I'm going to start off in that same chain and I'm going to start off with a slip stitch because I'm going to decrease the next 2 stitches. So I'm going to stitch together. So I'm going to do a slip stitch, leave it on my hook so that I have 2 loops, and I'm going to go in the next stitch and do the same thing, another slip stitch. So I have the 3 loops, and then I'm going to slide. Now I'm going to add one band, one, all the way until I get to the last 2 stitches, which I would stitch together. I'm doing an invisible decrease at the end. So it's just a reverse stitch now. Be careful you don't go in the same stitch that you just did that slip stitch. You want to go in your next one and add one band. And then just continue until you get to the second last stitch. This will get easier to handle once we grow a couple of more rows and it gets longer. There's not that many rounds to this robe. I think in total 8 or 9, 11. So now I'm at the last 2 stitches, the stitch before the stitch marker and the stitch with the stitch marker. I'm going to stitch together by doing an invisible decrease. So I'm going to go in my second last stitch and do a slip stitch, leave it on my hook. The last stitch where the stitch marker is, a slip stitch, leave it on my hook, and then slide. Now you want to add an extra stitch marker to the band that's around your hook. And then we're going to turn and reverse for the next round. So all I did, I was like this, and we're going to turn it. So right now we're on round 4, and I want to forgive you. I think I was messing up with the band count a little bit. I know that it's made correctly. But I've been counting the stitch that's on my hook. So in this case, we're not counting the stitches that are on our hook. So for round 4, what we're going to do is 31 single crochets. So you're going to add 1 band. You're going to start where your band is coming out of, that chain, and you're just adding 1 band, 1, 1, 1, 1, all the way until you get to your stitch marker. So I am using 31 bands to do 31 single crochets. So I'm sorry if you were getting confused a little bit. So let's go in our first chain and bring 1 band through on our hook and slide. And then just continue all the way until you get to the end. You'll want to add another stitch marker. I'm at the last chain where my stitch marker is. I'm going to bring my band through on my hook and I'm going to add my stitch marker. And now I'm going to turn it around. So this is how I ended at the end. And now I'm just going to turn my work around and I'm going to end up doing a reverse stitch this way now. So for round 5, before we start, you should have 31 stitches, not including the stitch that's on your hook. For round 5, this is the pattern. You're going to do 5 single crochets, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, followed by an increase. So on your 6th stitch, you're adding 2 bands. You're going to repeat that 4 times. Then you're going to do 7 single crochets. So we're going to increase this round to 35 stitches. So let's go on our first 5 chains with 1 band. Starting where your stitch marker is, so that chain that's being pulled right now, you're going to start and I'm going to do a reverse stitch, adding 1 band to the chain on your hook and slide. Chain 2 with 1 band. Chain 3, chain 4, chain 5. Now on chain 6, you're going to add 2 bands, 1 at a time. Go back in that same stitch, and you're going to repeat 5 single crochets and then 2 bands in the 1 chain. Now an increase, so adding 2 bands, back in. I'm messing up my pattern. So that same chain has 2 bands. So let's just fix this up for a second. So let's repeat 5 single crochets followed by an increase. I'm trying so hard to make sure that you see, and I'm messing up my pattern. Now an increase, so adding 2 bands to this 1 chain. Back in. And you're going to do that one more time. 5 single crochets followed by an increase. Adding 2 bands, back in. Now you have 7 chains left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 where your stitch marker is. So you're adding 1 band to the next 7 chains. where your stitch marker is. Now just slide, and you want to add another stitch marker to that band that's around your hook. So this is what you should have so far. You want to just turn, and we're going to crochet the other way. For round 6, we're going to decrease this round, and we're going to do the same as we did before. We're going to take our first 2 chains and stitch together. So that's going to be an invisible decrease. So just so you know, we have 35 stitches right now. So we're going to bring this down to 33 stitches at the end of round 6. So your first 2 chains are going to be a decrease. So you're going to do an invisible decrease. Your last 2 chains, you're going to do an invisible decrease again. So I'm adding another band. So let's start. So right now I have 35 bands here. We're going to go through 33 chains, just so you know. I'm going to stitch the first 2 together by doing an invisible decrease. So I'm doing the slip stitch, leaving it on my hook, going to the next chain, doing a slip stitch, and leaving it on my hook, and slide. Now you're going to add 1 band to each chain all the way. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, all the way, and the last 2 you're stitching together. So going in the next chain just with 1 band. Now I have my last 2 chains here. I'm going to go in my second last one, add a slip stitch, leave it on my hook, and go through the last one, do a slip stitch. I have 3 loops and I want to slide. Now you want to attach another stitch marker to this band that's around your hook. So I ended up here. I'm going to flip around so that my work is like this now. For round 7, this is the pattern. We're going to start off with a single crochet in our first chain where it's getting pulled. Then I'm going to do 4 single crochets followed by an increase. I'm going to repeat that 3 times. I'm going to do this 3 times. Then I'm going to do an increase. Then I'm going to repeat the same pattern, 4 single crochets followed by an increase. You're going to do that 3 times. And then your last stitch where your stitch marker is, you're adding 1 band. So let's go in our first chain with 1 band. So where it's getting pulled, 1 band on your hook and slide. Now you want to do 4 single crochets, so 1 band in the next 4 chains here. 1. Talking all this crochet talk is really hard. I am so sorry if I am confusing you. There's so much counting and so much happening, so just follow my pattern. So your next stitch, you're adding 2 bands. I'm probably over trying or overthinking this, but I am trying. So we're going to repeat 4 single crochets followed by an increase. Next stitch. 2, 3, and then 4. Now we're going to add 2 bands. Go back in. And repeat 4 single crochets followed by an increase. 1, the next chain, 2, 3, 4, and then 2 in the next chain. Back in. Now you're going to do another increase. So I'm going to add 2 bands in the next chain. 1, go back in. 2. Now you're going to repeat the pattern again. So I'm going to do 4 single crochets followed by an increase. Now repeat again, 4 single crochets followed by an increase. Repeat again. My second last chain, I'm adding 2 bands. Back in. And now my last chain, I'm adding 1 band, and then I'm going to attach a stitch marker. So this is how I'm ending. I'm going to turn it around, and this is how I'm going to start for my next round. So right now you should have 40 stitches. Do not count the band that's on your hook. If you count your chains, you have 40 stitches. If not, if it looks good, just leave it. But seriously, you should have 40 stitches. We're going to increase this round to 50 stitches. So this is the pattern, 1, 1, 1, 2. So you're adding 2 bands on the 4th chain. You're going to do that 9 times. And then my last row here, this is how it's going to go. It's going to have 2 stitches in that 1 chain, and then 3 followed by 3 single crochets. So let's do our pattern here. We're going to repeat 9 times. 1 band in the first 3 chains. You're going to start where your band's being pulled. I'm at the 4th chain, so I'm going to add 2 bands. Back in. And repeat 1, 1, 1, 2. Back in. So now just continue until you get to the 4th last chain. So you're going to stop here. So you can see I'm at the 4th last chain here. Now I'm going to do another increase and then 1, 1, 1. Back in. Where my stitch marker is. And I'm going to add another stitch marker to that band that's around my hook. And this is what it should look like. What you want to do is flip your work around. And we're going to crochet the other way. For rounds 9, 10, and 11, you're going to do 50 single crochets. So adding one band to each chain, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, all the way around. I'm going to do round 9 with you, and then you're going to pause the video and come back to me when you're done. Your last band, you're going to do a slip knot to tie it closed, which I'll come back to do that with you. Just make sure that you're leaving a stitch marker at the ends of each round. And you always want to start where your band is being pulled. You're going to go all the way until you reach your stitch marker at the end. And then you're going to flip and turn. So let's start. We're going to go in our first chain where it's getting pulled. And these are our last rounds for the red. So just go in each chain with one band. I'm not sure if I need to complete this round with you, but I'm just going to do that anyways. Each pile I have 50 bands, in case you needed to know. So my last stitch, and I'm going to add my stitch marker, and we're going to turn our work around, and now we're going to work this way. And for round 10 you want to just start in the same chain where your band is being pulled, and so you can continue, pause the video, and come back to me when you're done, and I'll be back to do the last stitch with a slip knot. So I'm at the last 2 stitches here, so I'm just going to go in my second last one. I honestly thought I did that. And now my last one, I'm going to bring my band through all of the loops that are on my hook and do a slip knot to tie it closed. Now I didn't need the stitch marker for that last one. So this is what it should look like. Now what we're going to do is make the white part at the edging of his robe. And you should have the beads already done at this point. Now you have 5 stitches on the sides. I am going to do 2 half double crochets in each stitch, and I'm going to be grabbing from the back to the front. So pick a front and pick a back. I'm going to choose this part as my front where my slip knot is to the right. So if you have it this way, I prefer the other side just because of the way the stitches look. So it's up to you. So you can see where my front and my back is, I'm putting a stitch marker on one of these stitches so you can see where my front and back is on knowing where to grab, where I'm grabbing and stuff with my hook. So this is just for you to see. You might want to do the exact same thing. That's up to you. So now I'm going to get started. I am going to start where my stitch marker is, but if you didn't leave any stitch markers, then your stitch is going to be right where this little knot is in that stitch. So this little first one, I'm not going to use that one. That's going to be when I start to do the top part. That's where I'm going to end. So I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to go from the back to the front. Now in each stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm going to do 2 half double crochets. So this is 1 stitch, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Each piece is going to go in 1 stitch. So I went from the back to the front, and you can see this is the front. It makes a difference on which way you go. Just a different look. Now I'm going to take 2 bands, and I'm going to pull them through my stitch on my hook, and I'm going to do a half double crochet with a band with my bead on it or your band, your wrapped band. I'm going to bring it through the first 2 chains on my hook. So this is what I have, and I'm going to slide. Now going from the back to the front in that same stitch, you're going to do another half double crochet. So you're going to take 2 bands. Oh, I made a mistake already. You're going to take 2 bands, and sorry, each one needs another little band. Ha, my apologies. Very tricky. So you're going to need an extra band, and you're going to do a half double crochet. So this one is going to go through the first 2 stitches only on your hook. So this is what you should have, and you're going to slide. Now we're going to go to the next stitch where my stitch marker is, right beside it. You're going to bring your 2 bands through on your hook. You're going to bring your beaded band through just the first 2 loops that are on your hook. So this is a half double crochet. On your hook, you should have like 4 little loops, and you want to slide this one now. So the one at the end, slide through. You can fix these beads when we're done, so don't worry about fixing them now. Unless you want to see if you're doing it correctly, you just push them through. That's up to you. Now we're going to do our next half double crochet in that same stitch. So from the back to the front, bring your 2 bands through, on your hook. You're going to take your single band and you're going to bring it through just the first 2 stitches. Put it on your hook. You should have 5 loops, and slide the one at the end through all of your loops. So you can see I'm doing bead, no bead, bead, no bead. I'm going to do my next one, so I'm going to go in my next C-clip area, my next stitch, and just repeat. Half double crochet with a bead, so 2 bands. I mean, you can use 1 band. I tried and it just doesn't look as full with then using the 2 beads. Now take your beaded band, you're going to bring it through these first 2 loops on your hook, and let's see, you should have 5 loops on your hook. Take the end one and slide through all. Repeat by going back in that same stitch for another half double crochet. So 2 bands on your hook. You have 5 loops. Take your single band and bring it through just the first 2 loops on your hook and slide. Now I'm going to move on to the next stitch. So you can see this is my next one. I'm going to bring my 2 bands through where my stitch marker is. On my hook, you have 5 loops. You're going to bring your beaded band through, just the 2 loops at the end, on your hook, and slide. Go back in that same chain for your second half double crochet. 2 bands through, on your hook, bring your single band through the 2 loops at the end, and slide. Now I've done the last 2. I'm going to go at the last stitch, and this is where I'm going to add the same thing, 2 half double crochets, starting the first one with my bead. So I'm going to bring my 2 bands through, bring my beaded band through, just the 2 loops at the end, grab the end, and slide. Go back in that same chain, two loops on your hook, 2 bands I meant, and bring your single band through on your hook and slide. So now we're down at the end, and this is where we're going to do the bottom. For the bottom, I am going to just do 1 half double crochet in each stitch. So just so you know, here I did 2, and along the bottom I just did 1 all the way, and I am skipping, so I'm going to do 1 with a bead, then no, and then no, and then with a bead. Now I'm going to call the bottom part round 2. And I'm going to be starting right at the bottom here, and I'm going to start with a bead. Now, after that, I'm going to do 2 half double crochets in the next 2 stitch, add a bead, 2 half double crochets, and then a half double crochet with a bead. You can see what the pattern is like. So now I'm going to start at my next stitch right where I ended, from the back to the front. Here's my front. And I'm going to bring 2 bands through my chain on my hook and bring my bead through. The bead placement is up to you if you want to add less beads or more beads. So I'm going to put this on my hook, the end. This is what I should have. And I'm going to slide. Now in the next 2 chains, I'm going to do a half double crochet. So my next stitch, grabbing 2 bands, bring through on your hook and bring a single white bead, a single white band through the first 2 loops only and on my hook and slide. The next stitch, the same thing, half double crochet, 2 bands through. We're just making this thicker if I didn't say that already. So when you're doing a half double crochet, you don't necessarily need 2 bands. Bring your single band through just the first 2 loops on your hook and slide. The next stitch, a half double crochet with your bead. 2 bands through on your hook. You have 5 little loops. Bring your band with your bead through the first 2 loops on your hook and slide. Now half double crochet in the next 2 chains. Single band through your first 2 loops on your hook and slide. The next stitch, 2 bands through on your hook, single band through. Your next stitch with a bead, your band through your first 2 loops on your hook and slide. The beads you can fix at the end. The next stitch, the next 2 stitches just with your band, so through your chain, 2 bands on your hook, a single band through your first 2 chains on your hook and slide. The next stitch, half double crochet, now I'm not laying out the rest of the pattern, so basically you're going to continue. I'm going to do a couple more stitches and then you're going to pause the video and go all the way until the end where you hit your slip knot here, the red. This is your last stitch. So I'm going to do a couple more. So my next one is with a bead. And you're just continuing the pattern, 2 half double crochets without. Now half double crochet with a bead. And then 2 half double crochets without a bead. Now a half double crochet with a bead. And then 2 half double crochets without. So this is what you should have so far, and this is what it should look like. So please pause the video, continue on each chain, following the pattern all the way to the end where your slip knot is, and come back to me when you're done. So this is what it should look like now, and I'm at the end where my slip knot is. So now we're going to repeat. I'm calling this side round 3. Here is my front. This is my back. I'm calling this side round 3, 1, round 2, and round 3. And we're just going to repeat what we did on this side. So again, still grabbing from the back to the front. I'm going to start where my stitch marker is, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. A half double crochet with, and again, I forgot that single band for the other half double crochet. So we're adding 2 half double crochets in the 1 stitch. So this is 1 stitch, 2, 3, 4 stitch, 5 stitch, and you have 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Where your stitch markers are, that's your chain. So I'm going to go in my first one. I'm going to do a half double crochet with a bead. So bringing 2 bands through, bringing my band with my bead on just through the first 2 chains on my hook, and slide. Going back in that same chain to repeat another half double crochet. So 2 bands on my hook, and then a single band through these first 2 chains. Repeat on the next stitch above, from the back to the front, 2 bands, pull it through that chain, on your hook, your band with the bead through the first 2 loops, on your hook, and slide. Go back in that same chain, 2 bands through, on your hook, and a single band through your first 2 loops, and slide. Going on to the next stitch, the next chain, bring 2 bands through, your band with the bead through your first 2 loops, on your hook, and slide. And just continue the pattern until you get to the top. So I'm just going to go back in that same chain. I'm just repeating. I'm at the next chain, doing the exact same thing. Your band with the bead, back in, and my last chain where my stitch marker is, the same thing. Go back in for your last half double crochet, and this is what you should have. For round 4, our last round at the top here, what we're going to do is this exact same thing as we did with the bottom. You're going to start with a bead in a half double crochet, then another half double crochet in the next chain, half double crochet in the next chain, and continue. So you're skipping every second chain and then adding a bead. Exactly the same thing. So I am at the top here. I'm going to go from the back to the front. This is my front. In my first chain, so this is right beside where we ended. I'm going to bring my 2 bands through on my hook. And slide. The next chain, half double crochet. I'm thinking we made 2 extra bands. At this point, I'm not entirely sure, bands with the beads. So if we did, I'm sorry, the next chain, and now you're going to continue all the way until you get to the last stitch, which is right at the end at the top, and then you can do a slip knot with another band, and I would go in the next little chain where we started to do a slip knot, but I'll come back for that. I'm just going to do a couple with you, and then you're going to pause the video and can come back to me when you're done. So this is where you just want to continue, and I'm just going to do 2 more so we can continue with the pattern, and then you can pause the video. So this is what you should have so far. And now please pause the video and come back to me when you've reached the end. So now I'm right at the end, and I do have an extra bead. I do apologize. You can add that in here if you'd like by doing a half double crochet, but I'm just going to take a single band, and I'm going to go in the next stitch where we started from the back to the front, and I'm going to do a slip knot. So I'm going to bring it through all of the bands on my hook and slide. So if you want this more of a cleaner finish, then I do suggest doing an actual half double crochet. And you can bring this through, and then you can hide that through your other stitches. Now you can remove your stitch markers all the way around, and then you can fix your beads, so you can continue removing these. And I'm going to leave this one on so you know where I am when I'm sewing this to the body, and then you can just continue with these. To fix the beads, all you're going to do, or your bands, is make sure that they're on the front by pushing them up. And you can do that to each one. And you can hide this other red slip knot by bringing it towards the back and maybe hiding it through some of the stitches. can fix all this up. And then next we are going to attach this. Now to attach the cape to the body, we are going to decrease because there's too many stitches for the actual body. So we want it to come to the front and we want it to kind of hang over. So what we're going to do, see how it fits, but there's still too many stitches on the actual cape. What I want you to do is find the placement where you want to start, go around, and stop. So that's why I attached 2 bands, just to show you. You want to count 8 stitches in the center. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I'm going to use this as my center. So compare it to your legs, not to the goggle, because you can move the goggles around. Now I just put this here just for a placement. I'm going to actually stitch a stitch marker in that stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So find your placement. And this is where I'm going to start. Okay, so this is the pattern. What we're going to do is 4 single crochets followed by an invisible decrease. So 1, 1, 1, 1, 2. 1, 1, 1, 1, and 2. But this is my invisible decrease where I'm stitching the stitches together. So I am going to be adding 2 bands. We have 33 stitches on here, and we don't have as many on the body. So when I'm going to start on the cape just at the stitches at the top. So I'm not going to grab the ones on the side. So you want to be very careful. All the way around. And you're going to see where you are going to stop here once you get there. Now I'm going to start to sew this way, and basically I'm going to end up sewing upside down. I want to grab from the yellow part to the blue part, but I'm only grabbing the chain on the suit. But you want to go this way up. If you go this way, you're going to see all these stitches showing through. So let's start at the top. That's your chain right here. I'm going to go through where my stitch marker is and go through the chain on the top. I'm going to bring my first band through on my hook and slide. Now 3 more single crochets, my next chain on the suit, my next chain on the robe, and bring your band through and do a single crochet. The next chain on the suit, the next chain on the robe, and repeat. You're going to have to keep pulling the robe to make sure that your stitches line up. So now my invisible decrease, I'm going to do 2 slip stitches and the next 2 chains. Keep it on your hook, go to the next chain, do another slip stitch, 3 loops, and slide. Now we're going to repeat the pattern. 4 single crochets. Keep moving the robe to line up your stitches. And now an invisible decrease, 2 slip stitches in the next 2 chains. The next, keep it on your hook. And slide. Now you're going to continue repeating the pattern, 4 single crochets, when you get to your slip knots on the body, make sure you're going at the chains right beside. This is your single crochet and then your decrease in the next 2 stitches. So you're going to go in and do your slip stitch, keeping it on your hook. The next stitch over, moving my robe over, you're doing the slip stitch on your hook and slide. Now continue the pattern again. Keeping this on your hook, sorry. And the next stitch with a slip stitch. And then you want to slide. Repeat the pattern one more time to get to the end. 4 single crochets. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and now at the end I have the 3 stitches. So what I'm actually going to do is do these 3 stitches. I didn't want to explain that. I'm going to do these 3 stitches and I'm going to stitch these 3 together in these 2. So I'm going to do 3 slip stitches. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to do my slip stitch, keep it on my hook. I'm going to go on that same chain and do a slip stitch. So I have 2 slip stitches in that one chain. Now I'm going to go in the last stitch and I'm going to do a slip stitch and then slide. So I have the 4 stitches and slide. Now I'm going to go back in that same stitch and I'm going to do a slip knot to tie it closed. So I'm going to go through all of the stitches, grab the end and tie it closed. And the robe's on. So you can hide all of these. You can put your goggles back on. We're going to do his little smiley face now. And then we're going to attach the buttons. If you don't have buttons, you can maybe do a magic circle with gold bands. So his robe's on. We're going to hide all these slip knots. We're going to pull them through. Now to do his mouth, I am going to go on an angle, just like how I did this one. And I'm going to take 2 black bands and secure it with a yellow. So I'm going to tie my 2 black bands together. Just creating a slip knot. And I'm going to go here. So I'm going to start like at the bottom. And I'm going to go through a couple of stitches. Usually the length of my hook is what I like to do it at. Doesn't mean it will work out, but I'm going to try. Give the band a little bit of a stretch, grab the end, and I'm going to do a slip knot. To secure this together, grabbing the end and tying it off, and I'm just going to bring the yellow band to the top and then hide it. So you're just going to have to play around with the bands a little bit. I'm going to go on the same angle as the mouth was to hide the band. And then you're just going to have to play around with it to however you like it. Now the last part of King Bob, we're going to attach the buttons on the side. And these are optional. If you don't have the buttons, pick a color of bands and maybe you can do a magic ring. This is the glitter gold. So I did a magic ring of 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then I would just continue off by doing a slip knot with another gold. Or you can get your buttons ready. And I would do a slip knot. This is a very thick band, so you don't want to pull too hard. And then you just want to hide this slip knot. So I'll just turn it around and I'm going to bring it through this little band and then just hide this band in the back. Whatever side you'd prefer to use. And you can keep hiding that, and then you can take a single white band and just go from one end to the other, the same as how I'm going to do with the buttons. So you can let go, go to the other side, bring it through, and then you can just attach that and do a slip knot to the side here. Now for the buttons, you're going to pick your placement. You're going to go through. I'm going to go through here, grab your end. Don't let go of the other side. And I did, nope. Don't let go of the other side. You want to do a slip knot and then just wrap your band around the button. You can remove these stitch markers too, and the other side. Grab the end, holding the other end. Grab the end with your hook, slide, and then bring your band over your button. Fix the eyes. Oh, I do hope you enjoy King Bob. This was my biggest project yet, and I love him. I hope you do. Bye for now.